Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm Val Vanderbroek, Mayor of LangleyCity, and I'd like to call the January 24, 2022 regular council meeting to order and begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Masqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. And for any members of the public who are in attendance to watch these proceedings, welcome. And just a reminder to keep your mics and your camera turned off while you are in attendance, please. All right, instructions for this afternoon. We have Councillor Paul Albrecht, Councillor Terry James, Councillor Gail Martin, Councillor Nathan Pahal, Councillor Rudy Stortaboom, and Councillor Rosemary Wallace. And for staff, we have Francis Chung, our Chief Administrative Officer, Darren Lane, our Director of Corporate Services, Carl Johansson, our Director of Development Services, Rick Baumhoff, our Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment, Kim Hilton, our Director of Recreation, Culture and Community Services, and Kelly Kenny, our Corporate Officer. So before we consider the adoption of the agenda, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, motion that the January 24, 2022 agenda be adopted as amended or as circulated. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Stortaboom, Councillor Albrecht, all those in favor, and that carries. Adoption of the minutes, regular meeting minutes from January 10th, 2022, that the minutes of the regular meeting held on January 10th, 2022 be adopted as circulated. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Stortaboom, Councillor Albrecht, any corrections, errors, or omissions that need to be fixed? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. All right, so first up this afternoon, we have Sarah Jones, the Executive Director of Langley Animal Protection Society with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Val Vanderbroek. It's lovely to be here. I'll just get my screen up here for you. There we are. So thank you very much, everyone, for the opportunity to present to Council today to share how LAPS supports the City of Langley. I'm Sarah Jones, the new Executive Director of LAPS. I'm thrilled to have been chosen to lead such a progressive, service-oriented, and passionate organization. I know that LAPS has long valued the partnership with the City, and as you do your important work, LAPS is operating in the background as your contractor for animal services. We thank you very much for your trust in us. I know we presented last year, but I wanted to take this opportunity to showcase our impact and introduce ourselves a little bit again. I sent ahead our 2020 community report, but as we have not yet wrapped up 2021, however, I will walk you through a bit of a year review for 2021 as well. LAPS was created by a group of volunteers that wanted to ensure every animal had the opportunity at their second chance, and that when they were in our care, they received the highest of welfare standards. As we soon enter our 20th year, we continue under both of these foundational philosophies today, and they guide our every decision. LAPS has 8 board of directors that are professionals in fields ranging from HR, a lawyer, communications, philanthropy, business, education, and finance. We have 20 highly dedicated staff that range in skills such as bylaw enforcement, animal services, animal welfare, dog training, volunteer coordination, and philanthropy, excuse me. Sadly, COVID has significantly impacted our volunteer program. However, we're happy to report we're slowly bringing it back and hope our programs will be fully operational by the end of the year because we really miss our volunteers. LAPS helps approximately 1,400 companion animals every year through our various programs, which I'll walk you through today. But likely to the surprise of many, LAPS not only is just for dogs and cats, but also we provide a safe haven to straying pigs, chickens, goats, and other small farm animals. We currently have 2 pigs for adoption, so if you know anyone who might be interested, let us know. LAPS has 3 key roles. First, our mission-driven work, which includes community outreach. We want to do everything we can to support vulnerable animals and the people connected to them, and make programs available that address root causes to animal vulnerability and abandonment. Second, the animal control contracts we have with the City and the Township of Langley relative to bylaw enforcement and the safety of the public. And third, our shelter-based programs, Our animal welfare department ensures we're taking care of animals that need our shelter for safety. And if they cannot be reunited with their original guardian, we arrange for them to find new forever homes. Sadly, the majority of animals entering our adoption program require some form of veterinary care prior to adoption, but we always try to ensure the animals are as healthy as possible when adopted. Our entire CAP program is actually accomplished in thanks to generous donors, as it's not part of our contract work. LAPS has many community-based programs such as the Dog House, a program provided in partnership with Federal Correction Services of Canada, where inmates learn skills related to dog training, grooming, and animal care, so that they can have career opportunities after they're released, as well as programs to support communities' vulnerable populations. Major's Legacy is one of our community programs, and it helps us ensure every animal has access to veterinary care despite socioeconomic status of their guardians. The fund was created by Elizabeth Smith in loving memory of her Doberman named Major, who was originally from LAPS. Elizabeth made the first significant gift to the fund, and since then, we've gone on to help hundreds of animals in need. In addition to providing low-income and homeless guardians access to veterinary care, we also provide pet food supplies and other necessities. Some of the animals who receive benefits of this fund are living in the community. Others, however, are in our shelter care as they need emergency boarding. Our emergency boarding is provided to guardians fleeing interpersonal violence or who may need to enter treatment facilities, such as hospitals or drug treatment centers. Our goal is to provide these temporary supports to prevent them from having to surrender their pet due to life struggles. City of Langley has been generous in providing $5,000 grant towards Major's Legacy over the last 2 years, and I can assure you that funding is making a world of difference. In 2021, we also opened up Major's Legacy to those impacted by the floods. Our work is going on as we continue to provide pet food to human food banks. We are also planning a free microchip clinic for low-income residents of Langley and to the victims of the floods. Studies show that human health is impacted by animal health. A society that invests in reducing unwanted litters of animals and ensuring animal welfare as a priority see a healthy and happier community. Therefore, we provide outreach services in partnership with our amazing volunteer community veterinarians that reduce unwanted animals through spay and neuter and provide access to basic, but often financially out of reach, healthcare to pets through animal health clinics. We work with a number of organizations in the community, and you'll recognize many of these names. And in 2022, we're hoping to expand our outreach and strengthen our partnerships to do more. LAPS has 3 full-time animal control officers that provide 7 days a week service. We also provide after-hours emergency services to support the RCMP. What many do not know is that animal control officers are actually specialized bylaw officers. They follow the same enforcement principles and standards of report writing, evidence collection, and court proceedings. However, they are also required to have knowledge and skills about best practice in animal handling and welfare. As they focus on animals, they also differ from bylaw as they act as first responders by resolving dangerous animal-related situations. If a dog is injuring a member of the public, the officer's role is to contain the dog and resolve the threat as safely as possible. This obviously requires specialized knowledge, skills, and tools. Thankfully, dangerous dog calls are not the biggest part of the job. A good portion of what the officers do is preventative and are education focused to reduce human-animal or animal-animal conflict. We help provide owners the tools and knowledge to be responsible pet guardians, and we ensure animals are safe if they're ever running at large. LAPS was recently become a member of the Licensing Inspectors and Bylaw Association of BC. We're currently participating in a study to help to try to determine root causes of aggression in dogs involved in animal control investigations, if in the hopes to reduce bites in our community. LAPS is excited to be launching our positivity campaign for 2022. The goal is to engage the public in the parks, build relationships with users and other park stakeholders. Officers will be seen engaging with owners of a good canine citizen in a positive way. We want to intentionally recognize the majority of the public are good dog owners. By doing this, our hope is to reinforce responsible pet ownership and ensure the public views officers as a resource and not something to fear. Examples of this initiative is that we're going to be hosting pop-up park events and on our regular patrols handing out good dog treats for dogs on leash and following the bylaw. LAPS is known for its innovative and leading animal shelter programs. COVID has impacted the intake at the facility, and we're finding more ways to keep animals in their homes through our community outreach initiatives. So our intake overall has actually gone down. In 2021, as part of our positivity campaign, we're implementing a first ride home free response to stray dogs. That means that if dog is licensed, have never been strayed before, and we can reach the owners, we'll bring the dog home safely directly to them instead of going through our shelter. Our goal is to keep animals with their pet guardians, reserving our shelter resources for only those who really need us and recognizing that sometimes mistakes can happen. LAPS meets the Canadian Standards of Care. The guide sets out parameters of best practice in animal sheltering and is accepted worldwide as the gold standard. In addition, we've gone above and beyond to demonstrate our commitment to high standards by ensuring every staff member is also fear-free certified. The Fear-Free program is a way of interacting with animals that reduces stress and anxiety so we can prevent mental and physical illness. In 2018, we also built a state-of-the-art cat isolation building to help us better care for cats who are suffering from illness, which helps us get more animals into homes. And in 2021, we created our first volunteer animal welfare committee, consisting of veterinarians and other subject matter experts to help review our policies and procedures so we remain providing the best care possible. Our adoption program is very popular, and we love making families complete. We have wait lists of people wanting to adopt, which is a good problem. And the pandemic certainly increased demand as people saw the comfort and enrichment that pets provide to our lives. Also unique to LAPS is our training programs for adoptions, where all dog adopters receive a minimum of 3 training sessions to help ensure they're set up for success with their new family member. As other shelters are reporting an increase in surrender of pandemic pets, LAPS has not seen the same increase. And we're crediting our adoption process and lifetime support of our adopters as the reason for this. You may notice that in the statistics that our dog adoption numbers is low, and that's because we're supporting more guardians to keep their pets more often than not, which is reducing the number of animals needing adoption. In addition, our stray dog return to owner rate is 94%, which is very high. Although our cat return to owner rate is the highest in the industry standard at 29%, our hope is to have a similar impact as seen with the dogs through the use of more education and providing spay and neuter access. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to present. As I close, I want to formally invite Mayor and Council for a tour in coming months so that you can see the work that we do firsthand. We're always striving to improve the lives of animals, and we thank you for your ongoing support of our work.
Well, thank you, Ms. Jones. That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you to you and your staff and your volunteers for all the wonderful stuff you do. And I know you're doing great things. So thank you. And you know, I'm an animal lover. So Councillor Sturdivant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Sarah Jones. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Very well crafted, very informative, very concise, to the point. I want to congratulate you in your new situation.
Thank you.
And let you know that I've been to the facility on a number of occasions before the COVID, of course, and I look forward to connecting with you again and maybe taking the tour. I'm especially impressed as how LAPS has established itself in our community in less than 20 years and become a vital component of caring for our pets and for helping pet owners care for their pets as well. You have a wonderful way of demonstrating professionalism while creating community as well. And I want to let you know that I appreciate all of your programs and especially impressed with your adoption program and your positivity campaign. So I'll look forward to connecting with you again at some time soon if we ever get out of this COVID, but let you know how much you are valued in the community. And again, to congratulate you on your new situation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Jones before? No, we all value what you do, trust me. So thank you. And thank you for giving your presentation, and we'll work on something for us coming out visiting you for sure.
Thank you so much to everyone.
Thanks. Nice to see you again.
Bye.
Okay, moving on. I can't believe the tongue on that one dog, that little bulldog. Okay, upcoming meetings. We have a special council meeting tomorrow, January 25th, 2022 at 4 p.m. virtual. And then another special council meeting on January 31st, 2022, 3 p.m. virtual. And then the next regular council meeting is February 7th, 2022 at 3 p.m. and that is virtual as well. And first, or I guess second on the mayor's report is a recreation update with Kim Hilton, our Director of Recreation, Culture and Community Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I actually have a short presentation for Madam Mayor and members of council and our viewing audience today. I am happy to say that as of last Thursday, we were able to open up the weight room and our fitness classes once again, which makes us very happy and makes our community very happy because I know there's a lot of value in the health and connections and stuff that we make while we're at our community center. We are under reduced capacity, so I do request that people, please be kind and patient with us. If you can't always get into the classes that you want to get in, this is short term and we'll be back at our full capacity soon, I'm hopeful. So the update for recreation for January. Online, again, because of the changes ever changing with this pandemic, we have moved our Celebrating Arts and Culture again to an online version. We have 17 different artists with some phenomenal artwork. And please, I encourage you to go online and see this exhibition at LangleyCity.ca. You'll be, I'm sure, really impressed with the quality of artwork that we have, and with the recognizing that our theme this year was elemental, so earth, wind, fire, and water. Moving on, we are helping to promote the coldest night of the year, February 26th. We do have a walk that's going through our community. So for more information, you can look onto our website at LangleyCity.ca, or of course you can phone one of our staff here at 604-514-2940. We also encourage you to go to the website that's listed on the slide here. Finally, I did say this was a short presentation today. We are promoting our BC Family Days celebration. And again, we're pivoting and adapting to the changes. So this year we're running it from February 19th to 21st. And we are allowing 60-minute time slots in the gymnasium. So families can come together at the community center here and participate and have some fun. You do need to pre-register. It is free, however. So you can phone our front desk staff at 604-514-2940. So that's our Celebrate BC Family Day. And I don't have programs to promote this time just because the youth and children programs that we do have offered are full. So if people are keen to get out and get active, so our dance classes and all that, they are full. And of course, we do have reduced capacity as well. So that's my presentation this afternoon, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, great. Thank you, Ms. Hilton, and thank you and your staff for adjusting so quickly. I know it hasn't been easy, but we all appreciate it. So kudos to you. And you're right, people just have to be patient and be kind, and we will get through this. So let me check. Councillor Martin, you're up first.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for your presentation, Kim. In regards to the Family Day, is it basically just games and sports? There's no bouncy castles or anything like that?
That's correct. That's correct. Just games.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry?
Just the games and sports in the gymnasium.
Okay, like basketball, little basketball hoops, stuff like that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Sturgeon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Hilton, for your report. Always very informative. I'm excited to know that all of the programs are full. You're making a difference in the lives of the people in our community, and it's all good. So thank you very much for that. I'm glad to hear that the gym is open up again. I think we should announce that and encourage people to come and work off some of that COVID extra weight that we've been carrying. I see that the programs for the gym are starting up again. I can't help but be curious if the floor for the gym has been completed, or are we just planning around the likely completion date?
Thank you. Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Storterboom. The gymnasium actually has been open for a couple of weeks. Just after we got back from Christmas, I think the 4th or 5th, we opened up the gymnasium. So we have had activities in there. The floor looks phenomenal. And we did take the opportunity while we had to close for the fitness as well to give a light sanding and a recoat to our fitness room upstairs as well. And that looks great. So we're excited to have everyone back in the facility with new floors, newly refinished floors.
Well, that's wonderful news. It sounds like you're ready to go for a brand new year, and I'm really glad to hear it. Ken will be curious, is the walking track open as well?
Yes, the walking track is open. It is reduced capacity. We are walking only, no running, and masks are to be worn at all times.
Well, this is all good news. Thank you for your great report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you through the mayor to Ms. Hilton. Just wanted to thank your department for how well you have navigated through COVID. It's been a couple of years now, and I can't imagine running recreational programming and just having to keep your heads up and all the work that goes into that, and how important it is that the things are becoming available again, just for people's mental health. I think it's just such a big positive. I do have a few questions in regards to, and congratulations on getting the celebration of arts and culture online. It's exciting to see that and to be able to afford that for the community. I have a question in regards to the coldest night of the year is usually sponsored by the Gateway of Hope. And I was curious to know why we are partnering with it this year.
That's through the mayor to Councillor Wallace. You know, I'm not sure if we're actually co-sponsoring. I do see our logo on it. I'd have to defer that to Tara and get back to you on the status of that, whether it's just that we're helping to promote it or if we're actually co-sponsoring it.
Awesome, thank you. And in regards to, I had a question in regards to the floor gymnasium. I know that we've redone it, and I've had questions in regards to the pickleballers and how popular that is. And is this going to be something that's going to be recurring as far as the wear and tear of the floor? So it's just a question. I don't know if you're able to answer that, and if that could come back at some time. I just had some people curious about that in regards to, it's just so popular, and just the, you know, the wear and tear from how much it's used by pickleballers.
Yes, I can answer that. Certainly, it really depends on usage, and typically every 3 or so years, as we monitor the floor, we'll get a light sanding and then a recoating, 1 or 2 coats of varnish. This past time, the reason why it was closed for so long is because we actually readjusted the lines on the gym floor to better make pickleball play and badminton play safer, so that the end lines where they come together in the center of the gym weren't so close. Then we can drop down that curtain that we have, and there's still sufficient space for the end lines on each side of the gym so that they can play. So that is why it's unusual that we would be closed that long. And I would say, you know, that type of full sanding right down to the bare wood would be, you know, once every 15, 20 years. It depends really on the usage, but it would be infrequent.
Thank you. And then one last question in regards to Family Day celebration, 19th to the 21st. Excited to see something happening for that. The 60-minute time slots, I was curious if we were going to phone and register, is that, like, let's say there's a family of 10 people that want to come and use a gym for playing basketball or something. I just wanted to know the logistics on that 60-minute time slot, what that looks like.
Yeah, so I will book certain spots within the gymnasium. So what they do within the gymnasium will depend on what other groups are booked at that time. And we limited it to 60 minutes so that people have the opportunity to cycle through and everyone gets an opportunity to participate in the gym.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Councillor Albrecht, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Ms. Hilton, for bringing the arts and culture component forward. I think it's, we have an amazing array of artists, and maybe you could help me, but I believe there was over 30 artists that had submitted works in the theme of earth, wind, fire, and water. So I would encourage any and all people to take in an amazing array of talent and creativity in the art world in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Hilton. Okay, on to presentation from Councillor Albrecht on Discover LangleyCity.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and you all have the report in your council package. I'm just going to touch on a couple of things. The major thing is the renewal of the municipal and regional district tax, which is due to be redone, or yeah, it's supposed to be put in place by November of this coming year. So the city has already approved an additional 5 years, and now it's up to the hoteliers to show their support for its continuation. And that has to be submitted to the Ministry of Finance in December or March. The 5-year strategic plan for 2023 to 2027 has been completed, as well as a tactical plan and support of the application. We continue to do a bunch of marketing. The winter asset management, we've got with all the snowfall and the weather that we had, we've got some amazing photographs of winter season and really attractive things to add to our photo portfolio. So that is something that we're building and continuing to expand on. Digital marketing has been put on hold, but due to the provincial health order, border closures and flood disasters, basic awareness and tourism in our own town campaigns continue with the Google AdWords program. There's a number of other programs. The Shop Local campaign is a full list of unique boutiques and shops that are perfect to draw visitors to the community. And the DLC has created a 4-page promotion hiding some of those shops in a fun and colorful way. You can find it available on site or on the website. The edible Vancouver advertisement, food seems to be the largest driver of tourism in LangleyCity. And the DLC invested in an advertisement in the edible Vancouver magazine, a magazine devoted to foodies and treasured as a collector's item for their great articles and stunning photography. And we'll be placing a second ad in March issue and supported with local media. Consumer newsletter continues to be a popular thing and is attracting lots of attention. And there's a number of statistics in the report, but I will end it there and answer any questions. So that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Lots of good stuff going on there too. Any comments or, Councillor Stortaboom and then Councillor Wallace.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Wallace, for your report. I want to offer my compliments to Discover LangleyCity and recognize that it's been challenging to try to generate some kind of tourism during this time of COVID. But I want to believe that the team is on track moving forward. I see this as a driver for our economic benefit moving forward once we break out of this isolation. And it's suggested that in the next few months, we'll be able to ramp that up and bring some more folks into our community, and hopefully they'll bring their wallets as well. So thank you very much for that report, and please accept my compliments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Wallace, go ahead.
Thanks for the accolades, Councillor Rudy Stortaboom. It was Councillor Albrecht's report to us, so thank you. In regards to the Shop Local campaign, I just want to congratulate the businesses, all that took place, all that were a part of that. It was really nice to see so many businesses, and it just feels so good to actually shop in a variety of different businesses, spend $5 to $50, $100 and be able to put your name in for a draw. So I just want to thank all of the businesses that were a part of that. It's a really great campaign. My question, I have a question for you, Councillor Albrecht, and I don't know if you would be able to answer it, but I do see a lot of amazing photographs that come out of Discover Langley site there. And I was wanting to know the rights to those, and if that's a possibility that the city could have some of those photographs for their website and our communications department, because it's just such a, there's so many wonderful photographers. So that's just a question. I don't know if you could take that back with you, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, to Councillor Wallace, through the mayor. Yes, I believe, and I'll get it confirmed, but I believe that the photographs are available for use by city staff. They just have to reach out and ask to see the inventory. That's the whole idea, is to for it to promote Langley and what we have to offer, and yeah, get as a great an image of our community as possible out there for everyone to see and experience. So, but I will follow up on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other, I don't see anybody else. Thank you, Councillor Albrecht. Okay, moving on to the bylaws section. Bylaw 3169, zoning amendment bylaw and development permit number 09-20. Final reading of a bylaw to rezone the properties located at 20179, 20189, and 20199 53A Avenue from the RS1 single family residential zone to the CD74 comprehensive development zone to accommodate a 5-story 56-unit apartment development. The bylaw cited as a zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment number 175, 2021, number 3169 be read a final time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturtevant, Councillor Pahal. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Development permit application number 0920. That the development permit application number, oh, it's written a second time. Sorry, let me just double check this. I think we can move on to bylaw 3194.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, have you done the development application?
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. The way it looks on my paper, it looks like it's a duplicate again. So I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you. Okay, so motion is that development permit application 0920 for a 5-story 56-unit apartment development at 20179, 20119 to 20199 53A Avenue be approved. I need a mover and a seconder again, please. Councillor Sturtevant, Councillor Pahal, any discussion? Sorry about the confusion. I thought it was a duplicate, so. Okay, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Okay, on to bylaw 3196 now. 2022 to 2026 financial plan bylaw, first and second reading of a bylaw to adopt the financial plan for 2022 to 2026. And I believe Mr. Light, our Director of Corporate Services, has a presentation.
So hopefully you can see the slide show. Okay.
Yes.
So good afternoon. Today we'll be talking about the capital improvement plan, the status of our 2022 operating budget, the preliminary tax rate impacts, and next steps. So I want to start in the capital plan. We have almost $17 million in projects itemized in our capital plan. You can see here that engineering has, engineering has also requested one additional drainage project for $200,000. And so the slide here is $200,000 higher than what's in your actual agenda package. After the first and second reading of the bylaw have been adopted, I'll propose an amendment to increase this one new project in drainage in Schedule B of the bylaw. But as you can see, of our $17 million in capital plan, it's primarily focused in the engineering operations, sewer and water utilities. So I'm going to just go through a couple of the higher dollar items just to give council and the viewing audience a little sense of what's in our capital plan. The fire department is requesting $1.3 million to purchase a new fire truck. It's replacing a 20-year-old truck that we have currently. And we do that on kind of a cyclical basis, replacing older trucks with a new truck. We have $400,000 in our road rehabilitation project, which provides paving works. We have $1 million towards the detailed designs of the replacement of the Engineering Operations Center building. This is scheduled out further in the capital plan, but we want to get started on the actual design of this project. $650,000 for storm sewer and sanitary sewer repairs. On 56th Avenue between 200th Street and 203rd Street, we have some utility replacements. That's including sanitary, storm, and water for a total of $2.15 million. There's a $1 million project on Mashad for the sanitary upgrade. Again, storm sewer replacements on 46th Avenue for a cost of $468,000. And then some water main replacements, particularly south of 48th Avenue around the 202 and 203rd Street. There are many other projects in the capital plan, but they're detailed in the actual document. How do we fund our capital plan? So here's some funding sources that we use to actually fund all the different expenditures that we have in our capital plan. The first one is reserves. So each year we try to put some of our property tax money away into reserves so that we can fund capital projects in the future. Currently, we have about 7.8% of our property tax and utility billings going to reserves. The ideal would be around 10%, so we're a little short of that, but we do have casino proceeds, which I'll speak to shortly. In the water fund, we have $780,000 going to the reserve funds for capital projects. Sewer, $850,000, and in the general fund, $1.8 million. So in the general fund, I broke that down a little further. There's capital works reserve about $1 million, machinery replacement, parks and rec, fire department equipment. So you can see we're only putting $55,000 towards our fire department equipment. Earlier on, I discussed a $1.3 million truck replacement. So we know we're not putting enough money there. We really are relying on casino proceeds to provide funding for our fire department equipment. So casino proceeds, this gives you a kind of a sense of our casino proceeds over the last number of years. In our budget, we had not budgeted to get any casino proceeds in 2021. Fortunately, the casino did reopen in July of 2021, and we've seen now 2 quarters of proceeds coming in. 2.3 million in the July to September, and then another 1.8 million in the period from October to December. So we're confident that we're going to see the full $7 million in our casino proceeds in 2022. This is predicated, of course, on whatever happens with the COVID pandemic, and hopefully our casino doesn't close again. If it did, we would have to readjust our capital plan accordingly. These are some of the operating costs that are funded by casino proceeds, about almost $800,000. Council has suggested or encouraged that we try to include these in our operating budget rather than relying on casino proceeds. Having learned lessons learned from having a situation where we did not anticipate our casino being closed, but we did have that case. We were able to continue these on because we had some casino reserves for the last 2 years, but something to look forward to in the future. The remaining of casino funding goes towards capital. When we finalize our year end for 2021, which we're preparing now, after the audit is prepared, we will have, if we have a surplus, any surplus funds put into the capital works reserve and the prosperity fund. We also collect from the developers something called a community amenity charge. It's for $1,000 per dwelling unit. It increased recently or starting in March. So we do have planned expenditures of about $648,000 in our capital plan, primarily relating to the parks projects that are funded by community amenity charges. So now I want to turn our attention to the operating side of our financial plan. We're going to switch our focus a little bit. Municipalities are the only level of government that have to have a balanced budget. Every expenditure that has been provided for in our budget, so we can't overexpend or go into a deficit. So we can't borrow to do operating expenditures like senior levels of government, province, or the federal government can do. So adopting a budget is a very significant process for us. The net expenditure increase over 2021 is $1,240,570. This will require a tax revenue increase of 3.94% in order to balance our budget. And this also includes new growth revenues of $636,000, or about 1.9% tax new growth revenues. So I want to just talk a little bit about how that's broken down. So in the one of the significant drivers of our budget impact this year is the policing services. You can see here that policing services are increasing $1.5 million, which requires a tax increase of almost 5%. Fortunately, on the other side of our budget, all the different departments in the other side of our budget, particularly in the revenue side, we were able to offset some of that increase, almost 1%, based on savings in other parts of the budget. So I'll go through the savings part first, and then I'll retouch on the policing services a little bit later in my presentation. So some of the revenue changes that we've got the new growth revenues of $636,000. So when new construction happens in our community and there's new assessment generated, those become new tax dollars for the city. So as development increases, we're able to see an increase in our tax revenues. Last year, City Council amended the permissive tax exemption policy, and that resulted in some additional organizations receiving a permissive tax exemption. So that's a decrease in our overall revenues. Min and inspection fees in the engineering side are increasing. Solid waste fees are increasing. I'll touch on that in a moment. Permit and licensing fees. So you see a large increase here. City Council approved a 10% increase in our development permitting fees. So that we're seeing that, as well as just the increase in the number of permits being issued for the amount of development that's happening in the city. So we're seeing $434,000 in that regard. There is an interfund utility allocation that we just transfer some money between the sewer and water and the general fund. Interest income, we're seeing that, anticipating the interest rates will be rising. So the reserve funds that we have in the bank and in investments, we anticipate will receive a little bit higher return in that regard. And we also have higher balances that we anticipate we can see an extra $100,000 for interest income. Hotel tax is basically money that we collect from the hoteliers, and then we turn around and provide that to DLC, Discover Langley City, our tourism organization. And we just anticipate that with hopefully COVID on the wane, we'll see a few more hotel stays that'll increase the revenues, which then will also have a offsetting increase in our transfer to DLC. Gaming proceeds I've already spoke to. In our prior year budget, we received some provincial funding for Restart Grant. That was a one-time funding, so we have to remove that from our budget this year because it's not an ongoing. Then there's some miscellaneous fees and revenues, 164,000 different areas. So on the utility side, single family garbage is going up $20 from $210 to $230. On the water side, council's already approved a 9 cent per cubic meter increase, and sewer side, 8 cent per cubic meter increase. Those are really driving, those increases were driven by increasing costs from the Metro Vancouver, the Greater Vancouver Sewage and Drainage District, and the Water District for the charges that we pay on the consumption of water, as well as the transfer to reserves. One of the biggest pieces of our budget is our staff. So in order to provide the services that we provide to the residents of the city, we do incur staffing costs, staffing and benefit costs. We have a union negotiated settlements on our QPIAFF and management contracts are seeing an increase of $287,000. In 2021, there were a couple of positions that came out of budget cycle that we need to include in our overall budget in 2022. One of them was relating to occupational health and safety, and another was for infrastructure engineer, primarily focused on the SkyTrain project. In 2022, there were some additional requests proposed to council. One is for an elevation of an existing employee who's completed some certification into a planner project, a planner position. We want to enhance our communications, particularly relating to social media and our electronic communications. So we have some additional clerical support in administration, in engineering and development services. And then we are requesting an IT specialist to be hired in order just to keep up with all the different things that are happening in the IT world. So the total there for wages and benefits is almost $700,000 or a 2.2% tax increase effect. Total wages and benefits for the city are about $16.264 million, which is about 41% of the general fund operating expenditures. Now I want to go back to our policing costs, which again was one of the biggest increases in our total budget, 4.91% total increase for policing costs. You can see here the RCMP detachment costs, that's for the contract, the actual RCMP members, is going up almost $1.3 million. So back in July of 2021, there was a settlement of the first contract for the RCMP members that was negotiated by the federal government. And that went from 2017, obviously up to 2022, we're including in our budget for today. That we were anticipating about a 2.5% increase that we were allocating and allowing for over that period of time. But as the negotiations happened and the actual contract was settled, we did see a bump of another 7.3% higher than what we anticipated. And that's what we're seeing driving the costs here on our RCMP contract. Similarly, the integrated teams, which are our integrated homicide team, our dogs, traffic reconstructionists, and forensics are also all part of that contract settlement. And so we're seeing some increases there. And then we have civilian staff up at the detachment and our community police office, and there's some changes as well. So overall, for our RCMP policing in total, about $15 million is the total department or the total cost for policing out of a $33 million that we collect in taxes. So we can say about 45% of our property tax revenues go to play for policing. There are some other expenditures, smaller expenditures. We do have an increase in our council remuneration, which is based on the mean average of the Metro Vancouver mayors that we have in the area. So there's a small change there. Legal fees is based on historical trends. We need to increase the amount of money that we are allocating towards legal. IT security and software support. So those are areas where, particularly for Microsoft 365, we're seeing an increase in our licensing costs, as well as just some other changes that we're proposing and have actually implemented some of these things relating to cybersecurity. That is always a concern. Fire department looking for training and supplies and maintenance. Discover LangleyCity, well, it's the other side of the increase in revenues. That's the increase or cost or transfer over to Discover LangleyCity for the hotel tax. Solid waste services, so a contract for the garbage collection and the disposal costs are going up. and we're seeing an increase of about 61,000. Library services are provided by the Fraser Valley Regional Library, and we're seeing a $31,000 increase there. And then some recreation costs increases. The other one is the homeless encampment cleanup costs. So when there's debris left over from a situation that might be in a park or the Nicomaka floodplain, we do have to clean up those areas, and that's an increase in our budget of about 41,000. And then scattered throughout our budget is another expenditure increase, a smaller increases that a total of about $63,000. There were some service level increments that were asked by departments that were not included in our financial plan. Infrastructure renewal. So as I discussed earlier, we would like to see more money going into our reserves so that we can fund capital projects, particularly relating to the fire services and even the capital works reserve. So that $1.1 million, 1.1% is not included in our financial plan. There was an environmental sustainability coordinator position that was proposed, and then also parks worker, allowing the garbage collection in our parks to be 7 days a week, and an additional position there that we weren't able to accommodate in our 2022 financial plan. So what does this all mean from a tax rate effect? You can see here, this, I apologize, is a bit of a busy slide. On the top right, or top left-hand corner, we have the single-family residential dwellings. So the assessment for our single-family dwellings went up about 38%, and that compared to what happened for the other part of our residential properties, which is our strata units or condos, went up about 19%. So single-family doubled the increase in the assessed values compared to our multifamily properties. When we apply that 3.94% to our residential class, and we are only allowed to have one property tax rate for the whole residential class that's provided under provincial legislation. We don't get to kind of split it and have two different rates. Because we're applying that 3.94 overall percent increase in taxation to the residential class, and the assessed values have changed so dramatically differently for single family versus multifamily homes, we're seeing a bigger impact to the overall tax increase for the single family homes at 9.96% when you add in the water, sewer, and garbage, compared to an actual decrease for our multifamily condo properties of about $8 or about 0.46%. And that's all related to how the properties have changed compared to the average assessed value for the city. So we can see that the single family homes went up about $333,000, and average strata went up about $77,000. So the average single family home will see about almost $340 increase over the year. And again, the average strata property going down $8 a year. We have about 7,000 strata properties and 3,000, maybe 3,286 single family homes. So we do have a higher proportion of our properties in the residential class are in the strata category. Individual properties will be varied. The impact of the taxation will be varied based on what the average, how they compare to the average of the overall assessment increases for each side of those types of residential properties. On the business properties and the light industrial properties, business properties, the average increase in assessment was about 15.76%, and the municipal taxes will be increasing by 5.72%. Again, there's some variety within that class based on how the assessed values have changed for different properties compared to that average. So some will see higher than 5.72 and some will see lower. And then on the light industrial, similarly, the average increase was 23.33% and overall tax increase of 5.7%. Let me just catch up with my notes here. The ratio, how we impact the business community and the light industrial community is we look at the ratio. So for every dollar we collect from a residential property, we anticipate we would be collecting about $3 for a business class or light industrial class property. And that's kind of the average rule of thumb that most municipalities try to aim for. We're a little lower than that. So our ratio this year will be for business 1 to every $2.86 for business class, and for every $1 in residential, it'll be $2.40 for the light industrial. That compares to a little bit higher than last year. On the business side, it was $2.54 versus $2.85. So again, individual properties will vary compared to how they vary with the overall assessment changes. I do want to draw your attention to that this is only looking at the city portion of the property taxes. So we do collect money for school taxes, for Metro Vancouver, for TransLink, for BC Assessment Authority and the Municipal Finance Authority. And those aren't reflected on this chart. These are just city portions of the taxes. Now, next steps. So we will be having a public open house, a virtual public open house on February 3rd, where the public can register to join us and have another presentation, maybe a similar presentation to today's presentation. But they'll have an opportunity to ask questions specific to anything that they have that's part of the budget, and finance staff will be there to try to help provide the information that the public's looking for. Then, as the public is aware of our overall budget and the tax impacts, there will be at third reading of the bylaw on February 7th, there'll be a committee of the whole where the public can share their views about the financial plan with City Council. And then there will be, if the earliest the finalization of the budget can be is February 14th. And that is my presentation. So let me just stop sharing screen here and answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Light, to you and your staff for putting this together. I know it's been an arduous exercise, so to speak. So thank you. So as per staff's recommendation, and in accordance with our bylaw procedure, our council procedure bylaw, we're going to consider the first and second reading of the bylaw as it was publicly advertised. And once the bylaw has received 2 readings, then we can consider the amendment that Mr. Light was talking about at the beginning of the presentation. So I'm going to read the first motion so we can discuss this, that the bylaw cited as the financial plan 2022 to 2026 bylaw 2022 number 3194 be read a first and second time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Storteboom. Need a seconder, please. Councillor Paul. Okay, so Councillor Paul, you had your hand up before. Did you want to go again?
Yeah, this is more just a question for the presentation. Did you, if I heard you correctly, Mr. Light, did you say about 70% of our households were strata?
Yeah, so there's 7,000 versus 3,000 in the single family. So yeah, pretty close to 70%.
Cool, thank you. I'll probably have other comments later, but I just wanted that clarity. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yep. Okay, Councillor Albrecht.
Yeah, I'd like to propose an amendment to the bylaw that we add $127,500 to the financial plan, Schedule A, under engineering and operations to include the environmental sustainability coordinator position, funded by transferring $127,500 from the future police cost reserve.
And we're going to get you to read that after Councillor Albrecht. This isn't the time to bring that up. It's going to be after the reading, which is what I just read. So we're going to go through this and then I will let you know when you can read that again. Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, any further discussion in what Darren just presented? Okay, seeing no, Councillor Stordeboom, does this directly have to do with the presentation?
Yeah, it does, Madam Mayor. I just want to say that I really appreciate the hard work that's gone into this from council and staff. I appreciate the departments having all contributed to reducing costs for this year. It's been a very challenging time, to be sure. I'm particularly sympathetic to single family home owners who, even though their equity has increased 38%, the way that the provincial government set up our taxation model, they will be suffering a larger percentage than normal, if I could say normal. And I just wanted to say that that's because of the way that the property tax system is set up, and it's not divided into separate sections for the single family homes and the multifamily residential homes. So thank you again for all of your hard work, all parties. And thank you, Madam Mayor, for letting me speak to that matter.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm just hoping that UBCM can do something this time or to separate this, because for single family homes to continue to have to support these stratas, so to speak, and stratas going down, it's a very unfair system, and something has to change. Like, it doesn't make sense. And we know stratas are going to become more and more, and single families are getting phased out. And I truly don't believe that single families should have to bear the cost just because of property or whatever the case may be. And I understand you can defer your taxes. I get that. But it's not ideal, especially, I mean, we've bought our house for retirement. So if we want to retire, we got to sell it and move somewhere else. And we don't want to do that. And a lot of people are in the same positions we are. Something's got to change with these assessments. So maybe as a council, we can push hard on that this year with UBCM and the province. Might be a good idea. Now, just for clarification, Mr. Light, we did put money away. We've known about this RCMP increase for many, many years. It's been going on since 2017. I think we were more prepared than other communities were. So thank you for that. I know our staff planned ahead. Is a good thing. Doesn't mean we're still not getting dinged for it. And I know we put a motion forward to the federal government through FCM. So hopefully we'll get maybe some funding through that. How do we make sure this doesn't happen again where it takes 5 years for a settlement? What kind of wording do we have from the RCMP that this won't happen again? Or do we?
I think because it was the first contract settlement for the RCMP, that probably kind of dragged things on quite a bit more than they might be otherwise. But we haven't heard anything specifically from the RCMP that, and really it's the federal government, that this won't happen again. But they are settled in this current contract.
So nothing further from the Treasury Board then? Okay, great, thank you. And just on this slide, I have a quick question about the miscellaneous supplies and services for $16,000. Can you kind of give us an idea of, or examples of what that would be? That's quite a fair bit of money.
It's $60,000.
$63,000 at the bottom of the one list.
Yeah, it's throughout the whole financial plan. So each department will have different areas, like might be
okay.
Telephone cost, hydro cost, it will be supplies.
So it's just a combination.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that for clarification. Perfect. Okay, that was it for my questions. Any further, Councillor Wallace?
I'm muted. Thank you for that report to the mayor, to Mr. Light. I just want to know if you know much of information on the solid waste services, the 61,600 contract for garbage collection. Just any more details in regards to that. And the reason I'm asking is that I know I don't think it relates, but you know, the request for 7 days a week garbage collection. I know it doesn't probably, but it's just, I just want to see if it's.
Yeah, so we have two components to our garbage contract. One is for green waste that we pay for disposal, and that's gone up from saying, I think it's $50 per ton to $70 per ton for green waste disposal that they get trucked out somewhere else. And then also our actual garbage contractor, which goes around and collects all the actual garbage. That contract is also increasing. So it's specific to what we already have, services we already have, not new services.
And just to follow up, if I may, Mayor, I guess just when I'm looking at the what is in our garbage system, and as we look into the future, and we've done a waste audit, and we're looking at the dog waste and what a considerable amount of waste that is in our what is collected. So that's, I'm just kind of, my head is going, how, if we ever do get a contract for that, what would be the dollars for that? And not going to put you on the spot for you to be able to say that, but it's just something that I think we should be cognizant of in moving forward, because it is a very big concern.
Okay, did you want to respond to that, Mr. Lay, or?
So yeah, we'll note
Or-
that
okay.
we don't have any information on how dog waste could be separated and what the cost would be at this point. So I think we're just making a note of that for future and
Perfect.
addressing that.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments on the first and second reading? Okay, so we are going to vote on the first and second, the bylaw being read a first and second time. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so now we can consider a motion to amend the bylaw as follows. That the bylaw cited as the financial plan 2022 to 2026, bylaw 2022 number 3194 be amended as follows by replacing Schedule B with a revised Schedule B, which includes an additional storm sewer project identified as 204th Street north of 46 Ave to outfall storm sewer replacement realignment with a budget of $200,000 to be funded from the casino proceeds. So that was the ad that Mr. Light sent us as the addition to our agenda package. So I need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Albrecht, and any discussion on that addition. Councillor Sturdivant.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to speak to this briefly, and that this is paying the bills. This is what we have to do. It's like paying the bills from Metro Vancouver when they bill us for water and sewer. I think that this is fundamental to who we are, and it needs to be done. It's not frivolous at all. And so I support this, and I encourage my fellow councillors to do the same. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's not pretty and we can't see it, but it's absolutely necessary. So I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Okay, so now Councillor Albrecht, are there any further recommendations or amendments to the financial plan Council would like to consider? You're up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and apologies for my eagerness a little earlier. So yeah, I'll have some comments after I make the motion. And I think most people already have this, but I'd like to amend that we add $127,500 to the financial plan Schedule A under the engineering and operations to include the environmental sustainability coordinator position, funded by transferring $127,500 from the future police cost reserve.
And Councillor Wallace, the second that, and discussion.
Yeah, if I could.
Yep, go ahead.
The climate crisis is real. It's here. We've experienced it this last year between the wildfires, the heat dome, atmospheric rivers, flooding, our winter snowstorms. this thing is real, and we need to have a dedicated person to help us navigate through these times to get the appropriate measures in place to make our community more sustainable and do everything we can. We're well behind other communities in this regard, and it's about time that we did this. So I think it's necessary. This isn't going to add to the taxation for this year because we're transferring. And yeah, I think this is a really important initiative that we need to start. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Wallace, go ahead. I'll let it go this time.
I know. And I thank you, Madam Mayor. As soon as I did that, I was like, went over to the reactions button and I was going to raise my hand. So apologies for that. And thank you, Councillor Albrecht, for bringing this forward. I think it's so important, and many municipalities have a position, somewhat like this, that we are asking for. And not only climate change, I mean, climate change is the biggest one that we've seen this year, but when we look at what we need to be doing as far as waste and upcycling, recycling, I mean, the recycling is the old words, and I think we're having to look at how we're upcycling and not wasting, and how we're reusing, and what products are we going to buy in the future that aren't needing to be recycled. I think that's an important part that we've looked at on the environmental task group. That is, I think the majority of our conversations on the task group have revolved around waste management, and that waste management would be throughout the city, and just in events that happen and events that are planned in the future. And we talk a lot about food security. Food security is such a big piece, and that equitable piece for everybody, just being able to afford and look at sustainable ways of growing food. And another one is education. I think education is a must and is so needed, because I think there's a lot of people that want to do the right thing. And I think, I think there has to be measures put in place as far as, how can we educate the public so they feel good about what they're doing for the climate and environment. So thank you for bringing this forward, Councillor Albrecht, and thank you to Darren Light and the rest of the staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sturtevant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I want to say that climate change is real. I know that to be true. I delivered that message years ago when I was on the Climate Action Committee for Metro Vancouver. And I appreciate that it is noble to consider someone who would be an environmental and sustainability officer for the city of Langley, but I cannot support that this year. I think it is vital that we keep our tax increase to a minimum. In fact, I struggled with the concept that we should have an executive assistant and that we should have a communications assistant, but because our overall number was under 4%, I was willing to work with that. Personally, I'm surprised that Development Services didn't ask for more assistance, because I think that they're being overwhelmed with the task at hand. However, that being said, I compliment all departments for cutting back on their budgets. And I think it might be a bit frivolous to give that all away to a position that isn't clearly marked out. I just don't see the business plan for it. As much as I see it as a noble cause, I cannot support it, especially coming out of the policing budget. We've identified what's happened with policing costs, and I think that we should keep those costs to one side. And quite honestly, I think we should have had a social planner on our payroll a long time ago, but I don't think we can afford that this year either. So please excuse me, climate change is real, but I don't think we should support that this year. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I forgot to mute myself the last time, so I've just been here. Through the mayor, through to Mr. Light, what does this 127,000 that we're transferring out of the future police budget mean for our future council? Given that this is an election year, there's no guarantee that any of us are going to be on council. And my concern would just be that we are sort of putting this off to the future and for someone else in the future to deal with. So maybe you can allay my concerns with what it means by transferring this money from a reserve, and what does that mean for a future council and the decision that they need to make?
Thank you, through Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Pahal. So this would be something to be able to do ongoing. It's a one-time deal where you're transferring from a reserve fund. It can't be forever funded from the reserve because it's not an ongoing opportunity to do that. So council in the future, being next year's council, we would be anticipating that this would be included in our budget as a tax increase and be accordingly put into the budget that way, because we would be hiring this position, hiring this person, individual, and then we would want to continue with the position.
Yeah. So I do support this position for sure. I'll probably propose another option. I don't know where it'll go. But I just feel reticent about supporting it by taking from reserves, especially because I've been pretty consistent over the years of encouraging us to invest in reserves, because, you know, even as Mr. Light mentioned in the presentation, we're putting in 7.8% instead of the recommended 10 into reserves, and that just creates future problems. Every year we're getting further and further behind. And so again, I'll put through another option. I don't know if council support it or not, because I do support the position, but if we are committed to it, then I think we just have to bite the bullet on it because it's so important for me, because I don't want to continue to compound the systemic lack of transfers to the reserves. So I'll be voting against this, but I will be putting another option forward if, you know, if this goes down. If it goes forward, so be it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Oh, I was going to bring up that very point. By taking it out of the police reserves at 127,500, councils in the future are going to have to put that in the budget, and it's going to be part of a tax increase. So I agree with a lot of the comments that Councillor Stardeboom said. I will not support this, whether it comes from reserves or anywhere else. I think, you know, yeah, climate change is here, but some of the things that were mentioned by both Councillor Albright and Councillor Wallace, if I look at what we're expecting this environmental coordinator to do, none of the stuff that they said is even listed here. So I think that there's other positions that would, in my mind, be more important than this one at this time, that staff have not deferred, and this is something that staff has asked for a deferral on. May I ask the reason why you have asked for deferral on the infrastructure renewal, the environmental coordinator, and a garbage collection? What was the reason for deferral?
So the reason, thank you, Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Martin. So we just anticipated that the increase to particularly the single family residential properties was too high, and we didn't anticipate that we could see those things in the current year. So
if in regards to the serval level increments, we have not really discussed what is going to happen here. Is that correct? I mean, we could take all of these and add another 0.86 to our tax rate already.
So what we've done is we've already included all the service level increments, which I talked about, the increase to the planner position, the IT specialist, the increase in the clerical for the administration, development services, engineering, and the additional staffing position for the communications. So that's been included in the budget. The overall 3.94% in the budget already includes those positions. The ones that didn't get included were the environmental sustainability coordinator, the extra parks garbage collection, and then the infrastructure transfer to reserves for infrastructure renewal.
Okay, so right now we're at 3.94 tax increase. Yeah, okay. Another question I have in regards to the engineering project manager, you're going to phase this in over 3 years, starting in 2023. So the 146,000 for that position goes into the 2023 budget, not the 2022 budget?
So this position is already in our budget, but it's funded through capital capital program. So
Right.
what we want to do is we want to transfer it from the capital program into our operating budget because it's this ongoing position. When it originally was proposed, it was really more time sensitive related to a particular capital project, but now that position has been ongoing for a number of years. So we want to just regularize it into the operating side of the budget. We'll start that.
So most of these, the project manager is looking at capital projects. When we're putting together a budget for the capital projects, would part of their salary be included in that capital budget?
Yes.
So that's where it's coming from. I mean, to me, I think it's hard to scroll through all of this, but in regards to the engineering project manager, I think we're looking at 23 or 24 million dollars in projects this year, which is only going to help the community. Anyway, the bottom line is as much as I think we may need an environmental coordinator, I think at this time we're doing it for the wrong reasons, and I'm not going to support it at this time. Thank you.
Councillor James.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Light, do we actually have a job description for this position that you're aware of, or if anyone can tell me that? The reason I'm asking is because I've been on council long enough. I'm not a fan of half funded positions. So that leaves the onus on the next council to make sure that the position's fully funded. However, if we don't have a job description for this position, and everyone's feels very, very sincere about this, I think this is a necessary position as well, but I want to make sure that it's clear, defined, and that the objective for this individual is very clear so that he or she is not pulled in 100 different directions according to the whims of whomever. And I don't say that disrespectfully because we're all passionate about different things when it comes to the environment. So I'm almost thinking that maybe getting the description together, funding it for half a year out of this year's budget. I know this isn't making it any easier on anyone, but then at least next year's council only has to come up with half of the cost of fully funding this versus taking the whole position out of reserves. And then the next council is forced with the hard decision of funding it. So I agree with what everyone has said. Councillor Martin, you made very valid points as well. I'm just really struggling that this is coming out of reserves. And if it wasn't an election year and all of us were guaranteed to be sitting here next year making this decision, sorry, I've got things bleeping and blopping in the background here, then I would feel better about this because I know that the responsibility would be on us. But because it is an election year, I just don't think it's fair. So I can't support this position if it comes out of reserves at this time. But again, a consideration that I would think about would be half funding it out of the existing budget and potentially making it only a half position to fund next election or next year, sorry. So it's kind of where I'm at right now. Not helpful at all. Sorry about that.
Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to the mayor, to staff. Could I get your perspective on, I know we included like a communication and assistant, an administrative clerical support, and an engineering and development clerical support as part-time. Those ones you recommended, where I know the environmental coordinator you deferred. I'm just, for my understanding, why were those ones put forward, whereas the environmental coordinator was deferred? I do realize these are all important roles, but obviously there was a decision made at the staff level on which ones to put forward. So I'd love the rationale, if possible.
So basically the administrative clerical support and the support in the development services and engineering were included in and approved in our 2020 budget pre-COVID. So when COVID happened, we backed those positions and requests out of our budget, didn't include them in 2021 and put them back in 2022. So that's sort of where those ones, because council had already approved them, we thought we would put them back into that kind of level of moving them up the ranking, so to speak. The extra help on the communication side is just basically because we recognize that the one staff person that we have in communication, doing all our social media, our website, and et cetera, is kind of overwhelmed. So we need to have some additional support in that regard. So that's where we put that in. And it's 30,000, not the full amount of 127,000 for an environmental sustainability coordinator.
Thank you. And if I may have a quick follow-up, Madam Mayor, back to Mr. Light. So some of these positions we put in, we deferred in the previous year. So like I was kind of saying earlier, we're getting this compounded deferral effect here. So that's my concern that I kind of mentioned earlier, is we just keep on deferring. At some point we have to bite the bullet. So thank you very much, Mr. Light, and thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Wallace. You're on mute.
Okay, I'm not on mute. Thank you for that. Through the mayor to everybody. Thank you, councillor colleagues, for all of your comments. January 11th, 2021, a year ago from today, we declared a climate emergency. We are behind the times. We are way behind the times. We directed staff to look at a few things, and one of them was, what potential next steps can the city take to achieve net zero carbon emissions before 2050 with a balanced approach for today and future generations? Update the current sustainability framework to incorporate current best practices on climate mitigation, adaptation, and resilience, and to incorporate principles of biodiversity, sustainability, and stewardship to guide future developments and infrastructure projects within LangleyCity. But we as a task group, and Councillor Albrecht and myself co-chair, the City of Langley Environmental Task Group facilitate an intergenerational community engagement surrounding a just transition to reduce greenhouse gas emissions at the scale that is required, with the focus on vulnerable members of society who will be most impacted by climate change and intersecting inequity. Ensure these people are front and center in building long-term solutions. And because of COVID, we are behind on that. And we are behind on a lot of things. And I know all these positions are valuable. I just feel like even when we're looking at a social planner and we're looking at food security and then the equity, you know, I feel that that is something that something from that position that we could put into this position. So there's a number of areas that could fit very well with the environmental sustainability coordinator. If what anybody wants to, you know, rename it, have some other ideas, but I am very, very passionate about it, and so is the rest of council. I just think that we're way behind on doing some of the initiatives that we need to be doing. And I feel like whether I get elected or not, if I've done my due diligence because I'm putting this forward. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Rosemary. Yeah, that's what I was going to comment. We declared a climate action, climate crisis, and we have done nothing. So in a sense that we don't have staff to work on it, and that's who needs to do a lot of the work. So I totally agree with what you said. And you know, we've needed this position for many years. And the fact of the matter is, with all the pressures from Metro Vancouver with the Climate 2050 and the province Climate 2050 and TransLink and all these outside organizations, we don't have anybody on staff to address these issues. And we need that. We need someone to address the climate action and the social issues, because it is important. And we should be making these decisions and not worrying about whether we're getting reelected or not. So I don't agree with that. And I think you work right until the last day, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to call the vote. Councillor Stordman, do you have anything new?
Yes. Yes, I would like to thank everyone for their comments, but to remind everyone that when I was on Climate Action Committee for Metro Vancouver, we adopted the Ecological Health Framework, and that was adopted by all municipalities in the region, including ours, and every department is looking at the environment through this lens, through those items identified in the ecological health framework. So I'd like to compliment every department for being as environmentally conscious as possible. We're all doing our part already, and I just can't support a position that has vague parameters just because it sounds good. I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Sturboom. And I was on climate action with Metro after you were, and that's where we devised the plan with the province of British Columbia for the Climate 2050. So things have changed since then, and we've also had Transport 2050 come in as well. And an environmental coordinator will tie in with TransLink coming in as well. So thank you. Councillor James, something new?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to clarify that we're all very passionate about the environment. I think this position is vital. Just to clarify, this has nothing to do with getting reelected. My concern is that this isn't going to be a fully funded position and that that's going to be the responsibility of any future council. So just to clarify, super important. I'd like to find a way to fund it. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm going to call a vote. All those in favor? It's me. All those opposed? Councillor Stouterboom, Councillor Bahal, and Councillor Martin and Councillor James opposed to the environmental officer. Is that what it's called?
Environmental Sustainability Coordinator.
Thank you. It's not written out here. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking. Can you please, Councillor Martin, Councillor Paul, if you want to raise your hand, please do it properly, because if we're doing votes and people are waving their hand, I'm not sure who wants to talk and who doesn't. Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Yes, thank you. I just want to clarify. I think anybody that voted against this did not vote against the coordinator. We voted against where the funding was coming from. Just to be clear, your comment that we all voted against the coordinator. Yeah, we voted against the position.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there.
Where the money's coming from.
We don't need any further comment on that, and you starting to try to cause problems. Councillor Paul, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to propose another amendment that the 127,500 be added to the financial plan Schedule A under engineering and operations to include the environmental sustainability coordinator position funded by an additional property tax increase of 0.14% for a total increase of 4.35%. The average single family residential increase will be 10.25%. I'd like to move that.
Okay, do we have that written out for staff?
I believe this is what Mr. Light emailed us as option 3. And that would have been on the 21st.
Yeah, I just wanted the clarification on which option that was. Thank you, Councillor Paul. Seconded by James. Discussion. Nathan, did you want to keep going on that?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I really do believe this position is important. I think, as the mayor said, I'm not worried about being reelected or not. I know that we sort of looked at that 9.99 or 98% as the cap. I know this would bring us up to 10.25, which is a number for sure that is double digits and scary. That works out to, I think, like $20 extra. So I think for me, we are in a climate emergency. It requires us to do a response. And I think as a council, at least for myself, I don't want to burden future councils, future generations with we'll pay for it next year. As Mr. Light said, we have this huge backlog of deferred positions. This is yet one of them. So I think we need to do it this year. As Councillor Wallace said, our forests burned to a crisp. We had floods, a 1 in 20 year event in LangleyCity this year, which was more than we'd expect a 1 in 20 year event to look like. So I'm comfortable defending a position of, increasing it by that 0.25%. I know it's above that psychological number, but it is like extra $20 or so in property tax to really tackle climate change. So that's why I put this option forward. I know it's not palatable, but I think it's so important that we have this position, that we don't burden future councils, future generations, and get started today. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Albert, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bahal. I'll be supporting this because I believe the position is necessary. I was just trying to ease the burden on the taxpayers and thought we could get creative, and that's okay. If our residential rate wasn't so vastly different between single family and multifamily, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would just be approving it. So I know members of council for the past 7 years have been going to the province and continually asking for a separation between residential taxation abilities at the local level to no success. So I will pledge that I will continue to try to do whatever I can to make this taxation for single family and multifamily more equitable and fair in our community. But the environment, if we don't have an environment, we don't have a community. So this is important. So I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Yep, can agree more. Thank you. Councillor Sturdivant.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the comments around this. I appreciate the resolve to bring the costing for this position out of reserves and onto the table. However, I still have a problem in supporting this position, which still seems vague. I don't see the business case mapped out for me here. I'd like to see some clarity around that business case, specifically what the person's supposed to be doing and what they're responsible for. I can honestly say that Langley City is doing its job. Every department is working hard to be a good environmental stewards of what we've had. And it wasn't just in 2011 that we started with the environmental campaigns. We've been conscious of our environmental responsibilities for longer than that. I appreciate that, if we have this position, it's not going to stop the flooding or the fires or the heat. It's still going to be a challenge for us. We've been doing our job moving forward. This is a good position. It should be clarified and introduced next year into our budget. I think this year we've gone over the max as far as what we can charge for our taxpayers. I'd like to actually see some things pulled back off the table. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor James, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yep, this is a tough one. This is the perfect storm this year. The RCMP contract, the assessments, the property, the differentiation between single family and multifamily. This is probably one of the toughest budget years I've ever experienced, just based on the parameters and the challenges that we've had as a council. I want to thank my council colleagues because I think we've worked well together. I particularly want to thank staff because this, if we're feeling it, I can't imagine behind the scenes what has to go on to put these numbers before us. But I will be supporting Councillor Pahal's motion. I feel much like Councillor Sturdivant. I can't even believe what we're having to grapple with, but it's not going to get any easier, in my opinion. In my opinion, the positions are backlogged, and I would rather take it on the chin as an existing member of council right now for a decision that I make than put future councils in a position where they have to grapple with decisions that we made today. So I will be supporting it, and it is not easy. It's a tough one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wallace, go ahead.
Thank you, through the mayor. I will be supporting this as well, and I'm not going to reiterate what everybody else has said because I totally agree with it. And Councillor Sturdivant, just through to the mayor, to Councillor Sturdivant, I agree with what you're saying, and I for the most part, but I think it is immediate, and I think it's not that I'm saying that staff isn't doing it. We've embedded environmental sustainability in our Necameko River District Plan and our OCP and our development. And I know that the engineering department, I know all departments are trying to do their best. They need support. We already live with they can only do so much. So when we sit at the environmental task group table, the amount of initiatives that come out of that table and demands in a very good way of wanting to create that change and do something, I feel called to have to. So this is no put down of Langley City staff by any means. It's just how can we support them in doing this? And I think this is a valuable position to be doing that. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wallace. I don't think anybody's putting down staff. They all do a fantastic job. And for anybody to suggest that we're saying anything otherwise is wrong. So thank you for those words. Okay, so any other comments? Okay, I'll call the vote on option 3, which is what Councillor Pahal has, an additional property tax increase of 0.41% for a total increase of 4.35%. To the average single family residential increase will be 10.25%. Call the vote on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we're going to go with that option instead of using the reserves. And are there any further amendments council wishes to consider? Councillor Wallace, do you have a, or was that up from before?
I know it's a new hand raised through the mayor to Darren Light, to Mr. Light, and justifiably so. Councillor Ruda did make comments about what that position would entail. And so we have, you know, other readings to come forward. Would we be able to do that before final reading to get that job position, some of the items that we would like to be seen in that job position?
Through Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Wallace. So in the budget package we provided, written by our engineering department, business case, looking at certain items that would be included in that position. Subsequently, I also looked at what a environmental sustainability coordinator is in the township of Langley, for instance. There are other job descriptions at other municipalities we might want to consider. So at this point, it's really about the money in the budget to do the work, and then we will define through Beckett and her HR department what the actual job description will be. But at this point, we didn't have a position to go make a job description necessarily until we have approval for the position.
Okay, thank you. And the social planner is separate than that. We're funded for half a year for that, correct?
Social planner is through the capital budget, and it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sturgeon.
Yeah, first let me offer my compliments to Councillor Wallace for asking for that job description. I think that would be something worth considering moving forward. But I'd also like to amend the budget by removing a couple of part-time or support positions, one for the clerical and one for the communications assistant. I don't know if I should do those separately or together, but I think that as much as those positions support the staff who greatly need that, I'd like to hold back on that for this year as well. Can I get a seconder?
Anybody want to second that? Councillor Pahal, go ahead.
Yeah, I wonder if Mr. Light could identify the value of the clerical support worker and the communications assistant separately and together, and how that would impact our overall tax rate specific to the single family home. Is that available? I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Storteboom. So the positions that you're talking about, communication assistant is $30,210, and that's an overall tax increase of 0.1%. And the administrative clerical support part-time is $43,650, and that's an overall of 0.14%, the overall tax increase. How that impacts the single family home, I don't have that in front of me.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You're the man. I mean, you give me the numbers every time, so you know you're the best. But I do ask that council would consider removing those items from the budget as well. We don't really have a lot of options on what we can pull off the table. And these two are sensitive to those positions that they would support, but I believe that we need to pull them off the table at this time to demonstrate very clearly that those few options that we have, that we can reduce the tax, we are making those changes. I hope that the general public can appreciate that. This is a show that we are working hard with staff to do the best that we can to keep our city efficient and effective. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just before I address Councillor Sortaboom, I'm sure we all know, but in the service level increment package on page 12, there was some descriptions of what that role would entail. I know it's not the job description, but the environmental coordinator does have a list of things on page 12 of that 2022 SLI package. To address Councillor Sortaboom's comments, well, I appreciate what he has to say. I think I go back to my earlier comments on this will just create a backlog situation for council next year. And so I'm not going to support it at this time. I just think we need to have this bump this year, as Councillor, I think James and others have mentioned, like the RCMP increase 4.94%. It's a large number. That, you know, it's unfortunate that this happened this year with everything else we need to do, but I think we just need to be a little bold this year, and I'm willing to take that political hit because I think, again, you know, community safety and the environment, two key things. So thank you.
Okay, any other comments on that? Councillor Albrecht.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Sortaboom, for bringing this idea forward. I really appreciate the conversation and the dialogue and the thinking and going involved here. While I'm not opposed to dropping these two positions, I understand Councillor Bahal's position. I understand ours, but I feel it's more about the taxpayers than anything else. And again, if we didn't have such a wide discrepancy between the single family and multifamily, this conversation wouldn't be happening. And of course, that's not to say the RCMP dramatic increase isn't part of that equation as well. And I just wanted to make note that we have sent letters to Ottawa about reducing some costs by the RCMP. We're trying to do what we can. Staff have been doing an incredible job of trying to make things work. And my hat's off to everyone, all staff members and everyone on council for really contributing to a really productive conversation. So thank you all.
Okay, call the vote to remove the clerical and communications part-time positions from the 2022 to 2026 financial plan. All those in favor and opposed. So Albrecht, James, Wallace, Pahal, and Vandenbroek are opposed. Okay, so any other adjustments? Anybody other want to make any further amendments to? Okay, so if not, this bylaw with the amendments incorporated that we did, okay, will come forward to the February 7th council meeting for consideration of third meeting as, or a third meeting as amended. Okay, that was good. New and unfinished business. Motions, no notices, no correspondence. We received a letter from the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, a response to provincial crisis lines in jeopardy. Motion to receive. Sortaboom and Albrecht. Councillor Sortaboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick comment to say that I'm not surprised that our advocacy worked in this regard. And I really appreciate everybody being online to address this issue. I think it's obvious that this needs to continue. And I want to thank everybody for their support. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, all those in favor to receive or did that? It's all good. Okay, on to new business. Motion to hold a closed meeting. That the meeting, council meeting immediately following this meeting be closed to the public as the subject matter being considered relates to items which comply with the following closed meeting criteria specified in section 90 of the community charter. 1K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. Motion that the meeting adjourn. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturtevant, Councillor Wallace, all those in favor. And that is the end of the open meeting. Thanks, folks. And Kelly is going to turn off the recording. We have a separate